What's going on, everybody? Dylan Manfrey on hand for the Sport Profile. I'm very excited to be joined by Kyle Franko, the sports editor of the Trentonian, a local paper based out of Trent, New Jersey, and a good friend of mine. Kyle, how are you holding up through all this?
Well, we're hanging in there the best I can. We're mostly working from home here, so I was trying to work on my bookcase game, but behind me for a video interview. But yeah, just sort of the best we can. Got most of the guys are all working from home, and we're just trying to do our best to find as much local content as possible.
How, we were talking about it before. How tough really is it to, just find that local stuff, after like the first few weeks? Because I know, like you just said, like the first week you had like pretty much everything laid out because it was just like the news of everything canceling. But then after that, how has it really been?
Yeah, well, it's like your program for the spring season, at least when you work at, like, I call it the hyper local level, like we are, so we're covering high school sports.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of programmed for, okay, here comes the high school season, so I know I'm going to have in the spring, I've got baseball, softball, track and field, boys and girls lacrosse,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, so you would usually have your schedules all there, and you would have this all planned out as, hey, this guy's going here, that person's going there, we're taking photos of this. Then all of a sudden that's not there. So it's like the rug gets pulled out from under you, and you're there like, well, how are we going to make this work? Right? Because we're so used to having that local content of something that's sort of on a canvas for us to go for. Like there's an event scheduled. We know we have to be there. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen at that event, but we definitely know that there's going to be a story coming out of that. And now we don't have that. So we have to try and find a way to generate local content. And there's a lot of local stuff out there. And, our guys have been good about finding some unique stuff. I know in Pennsylvania, they closed all their high schools and canceled all of the spring sports.
Yeah.
So we've done some stuff with that on our lower Bucks County stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens with New Jersey. They haven't made a declaration here yet.
Yeah.
But I, to be honest, I feel like there's really only one outcome, and that's going to be at some point spring sports getting canceled, unfortunately. So we tried to find some interesting angles. We've done some stuff on NFL draft, right? Thank goodness for the NFL draft this time to kind of provide you with some angles and some stuff. I did a story on how the umpires are being affected during the shutdown, right?
Okay.
Because one of the things we heard, right, what we talked about was, we feel for the athletes, especially the seniors. And the coaches having to go through this and the fans. But I was thinking, like, well, what about the officials? Because I have some friends who I've got to know and make contacts with who officiate games. So I got around to kind of to calling some of those guys up and saying, how does this affect you? And one of the guys I was talking to was a Division I umpire at the college level, but who had previously worked in the minor leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we talked about was that, he's like, hey, I was getting ready to go work a series in Philadelphia between St. Joe's and somebody else. And then all of a sudden you get a call and it's like, season's over. And you're sitting there and you're like, well, what am I going to do? I'm out 15 grand right now.
Yeah. That's your job.
Like, and that's what their job is. A lot of times it's not your full-time job.
Sure.
But if you do on the side, and he's like, what do I do now? I'm out 15 grand. There are other guys who are out 40 and 50 grand.
Yeah.
Depending on where you work and what leagues you work in, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, this shutdown has affected everybody in the sports world, from the athletes, the coaches, the fans, the officials, to the media that covers it.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a tough time, and everybody's feeling it.
So I guess a follow-up question would be like, what are some ways people can create content, in a time now, like, without sports really going on, because you're not going to have your game story. So how can really, I guess, journalists or just anybody just come up with content?
Yeah, well, I think from a sports angle, the first thing you have is that everybody's affected by it.
Yeah.
Right. And we're still in a period here where, it's the cancellation of a spring sports season is still kind of fresh and raw on somebody's mind. You had the NCAA decision where they said, okay, seniors, everybody can come back for an extra year. Well, how does that affect the senior class? Some of those kids, right, may have had jobs lined up after graduation. It may not be in their best interest to come back for another year, right? Remember, that rule applies to freshmen, to sophomores, to juniors. So everybody is getting an extra year. So it throws off the scholarship limits.
Mm-hmm.
So now the roster sizes are different. So there's a whole, for everything like that, there's always a trickle down effect, right? So for every decision you make, so for instance, the NCAA making that decision, right, that affects every school differently, because now all those decisions in terms of scholarship money and roster size have to be made on the college level.
Definitely.
Yeah. So there's stuff like that. Different athletes trying to help out in different ways. Some people maybe buying lunch for first responders. It's a chance to maybe catch up with people whom you haven't talked to in a while, or maybe it's something that you missed during the winter season because you were so busy, and it's a chance to kind of go back and catch up on stuff. Like I said before, we were kind of talking before, we went back and did some all-decade teams.
Yeah.
For baseball and softball to kind of generate conversation and get people talking. But look, it's tough when you don't have that canvas of having a game on the schedule every day to go to.
Yeah, and it's almost just so. I mean, yeah, people in journalism are, we're still trying to report best we can, but you're right, like you said, like we don't have those things on our schedule anymore, so it just leaves such a void. Do you almost feel like you shouldn't be where you are right now? Like, has it felt just weird? Like you should be somewhere else?
Yes. Yeah, it does. It feels strange sometimes when you stick your head out the door, right? And a couple of days ago, it was like 70 degrees out. And
Yeah.
you kind of look outside and you're like, why am I not standing outside at a baseball game or a softball game? Or I
Yeah.
should be getting cover opening night for the Trenton Thunder. But instead, I'm inside writing a column about, well, I hope there is a season.
Yeah.
And then if there is a season, what happens next year when minor league baseball changes forever?
Yeah.
Coming up with plans to change how the minor leagues operate, and who knows what that's going to look like.
Oh,
so
my God.
And I'm like, I'm writing that column, and I kind of want to be like, yeah, I wish I was writing that column at the ballpark, right? Like,
yeah.
Like I'd settle for like competitive bocce ball right now. if we could get something like that, I'd go out and cover that or take pictures of that.
What would be the weirdest sport you would ever cover in a time like this?
Well, I don't consider video games a sport. Okay. So, no, some people are probably going to be like ready to throw something at my face here. Like, what do you mean esports? Maybe that's because I haven't played a video game myself since college.
Honestly, me too. Like, I haven't played a video game in like 2 years.
Yeah, it's not something that was really like, that I was super into. Like, I would play it, but like, I have no interest in watching MLB players play the shell against each other, or NBA players play each other in 2K. Like I have zero interest in that. But I don't know. Maybe I should be trying to cover an esports tournament right now of guys gaming from their couches.
But you would do it. You would do it.
I might do it. I might be ready to go out and do it right now.
Has anyone brought that idea up to you?
Not yet. Not yet. But we'll see what happens. there's going to be time here to find some kind of oddball and stories.
The idea's on the table, though.
Yeah, it's definitely on the table.
It's. I mean, what else? I guess what else is there?
Yeah, exactly. So
it just feels so weird to say it.
Everything's on the table. We're on a day by day basis here.
Yeah. So what were you like in high school and college? Just as like a person going through journalism classes, trying to garner your interest?
Well, at some point, I'll say this. At some point, you have to realize you're not good enough to play sports at the next level, and you have to find something else to do. So that hit me, after my senior year of high school, where I was like, not good enough to run with the big dogs, so to speak. So I got to find.
What'd you play?
Yeah, I played soccer and baseball.
Okay.
Got cut from the basketball team a bunch of times.
All right.
But yeah, at some point you just got to be like, like I want to stay involved with sports. I like sports. I like to be a part of it. And how can I do that? And for me, it kind of took me into this sort of sports media world. It's a great way to still kind of be able to interact with athletes and coaches and get a chance to tell their stories. Like it's always about the stories of these athletes and coaches for me. It's not about me like inserting myself the conversation. It's I'd rather kind of let them tell their stories, and I'll kind of just sort of get out of the way a little bit and sort of just be the one who can present that in a certain way. So that's what kind of appealed about it to me. And then also being part of kind of like a community aspect. So I feel
Yeah,
like when you do it on the local level in terms of high schools, you're sort of part of that community
definitely.
in a way, not as much as like, hey, I'm interacting with the athletes every day. Like that's something their coaches do, but
Yeah,
still, like you feel like you're kind of part of that community. So you still get to interact with them. You watch the game, you get to tell their stories. I probably interact with the coaches more than I do the high school athletes.
sure.
Um, but I think for me, that's always felt as a way to be kind of part of that community. And that to me is something that's appealing and something that I really enjoy about covering high school sports.
Is that, I mean, I guess high school sports is such like a niche, like realm, if you will. What do you like most about it? Is it that interaction that you just said?
Yeah, I think it's sort of being part of the community, and it's something that's unique to your specific area or your specific outlet, right? You wouldn't go to,
Definitely.
I always say, like, you wouldn't go to the New York Times or the New York Post for stories about Mercer County high school athletics,
Yeah.
right? Right. Like if you want to read about, New Jersey high school athletics here locally in Mercer County and then Lower Bucks in Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
right across the river, right? You would come to us. We would be the ones who would be able to provide you with that kind of coverage. I say that's where our bread is buttered in terms of the local coverage. Sure, we
Definitely.
we do stuff on the Giants and the Eagles and the Jets and the NFL, and we'll have Yankees and Phillies and Mets stuff during baseball season.
Mhm.
Uh, but for the most part, our bread is kind of buttered in the local content, right?
Definitely.
So people understand that if you want to read about local content, we're the place to go. So we've always gone very heavy on local content, and that's something that has was a goal of the Trentonian before I got there, and something I learned while I was coming up. And
Mhm.
something I think once I've, if I were to say transitioned into sort of role as a sports editor, that's something we've continued to do is make sure we really hammer in on the local coverage.
Absolutely. Is that something you like covering the most, like high school sports? Would
Um,
you say?
yeah, like I mean, I love college basketball. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably like that's where I really got my start when I was in college.
Mhm.
Uh, I went to Rutgers University
Yeah.
in New Brunswick, and I got my start at the student paper there covering the men's basketball team.
Yeah.
So now this was Rutgers. This was during Fred Hill's 4-year reign of error, um, which was then followed by Mike Rice's 4-year reign of terror, followed by Eddie Jordan, who was basically a wet log, and then they finally got to Steve Peichel, who's got something going on. So I'm definitely happy to see the alma mater on the
Yeah.
on the uptick in basketball. I watched a lot of bad basketball games at Rutgers.
I love what you just said, the reign of Everton.
Yeah, so yeah, I saw a lot of bad basketball games at Rutgers, but that's how I got my start. So college basketball has always been kind of one of my favorite sports to cover. I love mid-major basketball. Like
Yeah.
I because you can get in there, and you can really get a chance to know some of the guys, know the coaches, be able to tell their stories, and you don't have like 20 other media outlets hanging over your
Yeah,
shoulder.
I definitely understand that.
So I've always been a huge fan and supporter of mid-major basketball. I always will be, no matter where I go in life. uh,
Yeah.
the MAC is its own sort of wacky world, as you've probably
Yep.
quickly learned. uh, yeah, and then certainly I enjoy doing the high school stuff. I got the chance to a couple years ago. I took over as a high school girls soccer writer, and
Okay.
some of my like, girls soccer. Why would you want to do that? And I'm just like, well, first of all, I love soccer,
Yeah,
and it was a chance to just take something and make it your own, and
definitely.
kind of put your own spin on the way you cover it, and you pick the all-star team for the paper at the end of the year, and
Yeah.
then got a bunch of people with pitchforks ready to come after you because Sally didn't make first team or whatever. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've kind of sort of made it, sort of took it and put my spin on it, and the way it turns, the way I cover things, and I've really enjoyed it, and the people have been great. Like the coaches that I get to deal with,
Yeah.
for the most part, are been really great, and sort of made some friends there who I keep in touch with all the time. So
Mhm.
that's been really cool as well.
Talk about like, your first like professional job. Like, you're graduating college, you're trying to navigate the job market a little bit. Obviously, the narratives are out there that like it is very difficult
Yeah.
and it's no secret. So how did you really navigate the waters a little bit?
I got lucky that I had done some an internship with the Trentonian between my junior and senior year
Okay.
of college,
Mhm.
and I was once I graduated. Obviously, I didn't have a job when I graduated right away, so I was kind of just doing some freelance stuff. Um,
Mhm.
just trying to working at like the gym. I was like working at the gym for a couple months after I graduated, looking for a full time job, and I remember someone had left the Trentonian who was covering college basketball, was
Okay.
covering Rider men's basketball. And because I had done stuff for them in the past in terms of the internship, they called me and said, "Hey, would you be able to hop on the Rider basketball beat for the remainder of the season?"
Mhm.
Um, so I went and I did like the second half of the season from like mid December through the rest of the season. And then I was like, they were like, "Hey, so what are your plans moving forward here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna finish the season and then find a full time, go out looking for a job, right?" And they were like,
Yeah, of
"Well, we have an opening here. Would you be interested?" Um,
course.
and I said, "Why not?" It was either that or some paper in like Ohio or something, or Kentucky, that I had applied
Sure.
for and wanted to interview me and hire me. And I was in my head, I was like, I'm going to go for the one, and that's a little closer to home and
Mhm.
has something available that I really want to do. And it's just kind of taken off from there. I don't say that I had a I don't think when I took the job, I had this grand idea of I'm going to be the sports editor there one day, or
Really.
I'm going to be here. Or as people always say, like, what do you want to do in 5 years? And it's probably like my least favorite question
Yeah.
that people ask, because I'm always like, I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
you just never know where life is going to take you, or what kind of opportunity is going to come up. I never thought I would have said, "Hey, you want to be the sports editor here?" And I was like 25 years old at the time
Mhm.
when they asked me to do it. And uh, you just never know. So again, that's kind of how it went down. So I was very, very lucky to be able
Yeah.
to land there. And it was a good spot for me in terms of the people who were there, that kind of were able to help me get to where I am. And now hopefully I get a chance here to work with some different people. And I always say, hey, if you come here and you start with us and then we move you on to somewhere else bigger and better, then we've done our job. And we've had guys go on to Major League Baseball, MLB.com,
Yeah.
a guy on the Baseball America,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
had a guy move on to, well, one guy moved on to be a lawyer, um, and then asked me to write his letter of recommendation for him. So he's lawyering now. So
Okay.
I take a little bit of credit for that.
Yeah.
Shout out to my guy Nick Perufo, who's out there lawyering somewhere, and he was a guy who was just great to work with as well. So I've been really fortunate to work with some really great people along the way.
Yeah. Um, you had mentioned that it was either this or something in like Ohio or like Kentucky. How far do you live from where you work, or like where do you live now?
So I'm actually I live right over the bridge in
Okay,
Lebanon.
so you're in
Yeah,
PA.
yeah. I'm actually in PA, so I'm right on the other side of the bridge.
Okay.
You know, but I'm originally from suburban Philadelphia.
Okay.
So Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, is
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
where I'm originally from. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, so I don't. So I'm not. I'm only trekking like 15 minutes into to work.
Yeah.
Of course, I haven't actually been into the office in like a week and a half.
Yeah.
Uh, locked down at home. I think I've been in the office twice since I got back from Atlantic City. Yeah, as you know, you were there too.
Mhm.
There March. What was it? March 13th.
Yeah, something like that. I
So
was planning to. I was telling my parents the whole week. I was like, "Listen, like we're gonna do something for your anniversary because their anniversary was March 15th. I was like, yeah, we're gonna do something on the 16th, and then it's like, all right, I'm coming home the 13th, And they're like, why? I'm like, it got canceled.
I know. Yeah, I hear you. I spent my birthday locked up inside.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was your birthday?
My mom had a birthday the other day.
Oh,
Called her. She's locked inside for her birthday. So it's just kind of it's one of those things you always remember this one.
I know. We did something like that for my aunt as well. It was her birthday like a few weeks ago or something, and we did something like that. So what was I gonna? So as a sports editor, you're managing like a handful of people. Well, first of all, how many people are you managing? Like you have like your
Yeah, well, in sports, including myself, we have 4 full-time people, and then we have a part-timer, and then we have a freelancer that we use regularly, and then a photographer, a freelance photographer that we also use.
gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it's not a huge desk. It was obviously it was much bigger when I interned there.
Hmm.
And obviously it's gotten much smaller because of the changes that have happened in the industry. A lot of them not for the better.
Yeah.
Something we're all, you're kind of aware of when you go into this.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's a lot about managing personalities, right? I don't worry as much about is that story gonna be there on time. Like it's about managing the different personalities on the desk, and making sure guys just are assigned to everything, right? and that we know what's coming back from them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's a lot more of that. And everybody has a different kind of management style that they use. Mine has never been a big sort of rah, let me get up and make grand pronouncements or hold a bunch of staff meetings. Mine's more on an individual basis, which you can do with a smaller staff. I think if you were working with larger staff, you would probably have to have more group meetings together, like when we were allowed to have group meetings. But but working with a smaller staff, I do everything more on an individual basis. So it's more a lot of one-on-one stuff with each individual person, and then it goes into a greater budget. So we have a budget for the week that we have that lists everything that's coming on a particular on what day it's happening, who's going to be there, what time it starts, are we taking pictures of it, how much space do we need for it. So that all gets put into a budget at the beginning of the week. But I do a lot of my managing in terms of like one-on-one, person-to-person managing, as opposed to let's call them all into a big group and have a big group think.
Yeah, basically my point in asking that question was like, since you're the sports editor, are you ever like, hey, you want to cover the Super Bowl? You can go. Like, like, do you ever do that with yourself a little bit? Like, I'm the sports editor. Let's go cover this. Let's go cover that.
Yeah. Sometimes, and sometimes it's about like delegating stuff. And obviously there's a monetary budget that you have to keep in mind. And we were actually fortunate enough to get one of our guys to the Super Bowl this year in Florida.
I Greg Johnson.
You talked to Greg, right? And we were able to do that because we had a connection down in Florida who was able to kind of provide some housing for us, which certainly, limits the cost on it. So
definitely.
So that's something that, so that's why we were able to do that. But you could do stuff like that. And look, as you get older, there's also things where you look at and you go, I don't have to do that anymore. You can go do that.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of one of the perks of the boss is you could pick and choose a little bit. But no, I still like to get out there and do a lot of writing and do a lot of assignments. And look, even as sports editor, I've gone out and done little league games that maybe I didn't necessarily need to do. But I like to get out of the office. I like to interact with, of
course,
with the people. So that's all good for me. I've never been one to be like I'm going to be chained to the desk and just be like a traffic cop waving people here. Like if I'm going to do this sports editor thing, I'm going to be out and working and covering stories and going to events.
Of course, it's part of your job. Like this is what you love to do.
That's the way I look at it. And that was like before I went to become the sports editors. That was my biggest concern. Is I said, hey, I don't want to be chained to the desk where I have to sit inside all the time right? I want to go out and cover stuff. That's where I get the thrill,
I can
right?
only imagine how you feel now.
Yeah, like the thrill and report stories. That's what I want to be doing. And I also think the desk, because we're such a small staff, I think it works better that way too. That
Yeah.
I'm kind of part of the coverage and doing the reporting. And I think that is probably something the guys. I hope that's something the other guys on the staff appreciate, that here, and I'm willing, that I go out and do that stuff, and I'm right there with them, and I'm not just hovering over them and right, stomping my feet and saying, do this, do that.
No, absolutely. Do you ever you remember covering your first game? What was it like?
My first game. My first game was the first story I ever had to write was when I was in college, and my assignment was to call this runner on the cross country team.
Okay.
And talk to her. Now, I had no idea what I was doing, the sport, like what the point is. I just do cross country. You run a lot. That's the right. You run a lot. That's all I knew about it. So,
as a former cross country runner myself, that's pretty much a description I've heard a lot.
So I remember that was the first story I was ever assigned, was to write a feature on a cross country runner at Rutgers.
Okay.
And I just remember, all I remember was that she wanted to be a cheerleader, but instead ended up being a runner. I don't remember anything else about the story except that I remember her just saying, I really wanted to be a cheerleader when I was in high school, but I ended up running. And then I wrote the last graph was not bad for a wannabe cheerleader. Was the last graph of the story. She was a very good runner, and that was the last graph of the story. I probably don't even have that story anymore, but I always remember that was my first one.
That's something.
So and that was one of those things where, like, I was out of my comfort zone in terms of what I knew about. I had never interviewed an athlete before. I never interviewed a cross-country runner before. But I think that was good for me. I think that was good for me to kind of get out of your comfort zone, and I think it's okay to do that to something you're not familiar with, and sort of broaden your horizons, because you got to be flexible in this line of work. If you're not going to be flexible and versatile, you're not going to get anywhere. So you got to be willing to kind of do those sort of things, and not be afraid to sort of take on a story that pushes you outside your comfort zone.
So was it? I mean, I'm sure it was hard at first to cover like those sports that you don't really know. So how can you, if you're covering something that you don't know, what are ways to increase your knowledge about it, I guess?
Try and learn the rules. Right? So I had to
what was it?
lacrosse. I had to cover lacrosse.
Okay.
I didn't really know the rules when I got it. So I tried to I tried to at least learn the basics, right?
Sure.
Like how many players are on the field? Don't show that you're like a total novice, right? You don't want to you want to project confidence, and if you're not sure, just keep it short, right? Why were you guys effective? Why were you guys effective offensively? Is a good question to ask if you're not technically proficient in a sport, right? And I think it's okay. You kind of can go up to them if you go up to the coach off the record and you say, hey, you're in college, or you're a college journalist, and hey, this is my first time out at lacrosse. And a lot of times they'll work with you because they're thankful for the coverage, because those are sports that don't get as much coverage. And I think that's what I was able to do. Just kind of try and learn it the best you can. Go watch a game on TV, right? Yeah. Or go find an archive game and watch it. I think that's always a good idea when you're dealing with something you're not sure about. Maybe read stories about it. Definitely. From somebody who is, just to kind of get yourself familiar with it. And then as you go on and you watch it, I always felt like I was fairly athletic too when I was in high school, in terms of just being able to move around on the field when I played sports. So I always felt like that was something that I could apply then to my to my coverage then, because like you see the way people move.
So I'm going to throw out a name to you, and I want you to tell me what this person really means to you. Name is Mike
Okay.
Vorkunov. He's the Knicks beat reporter for The Athletic and the NBA writer. And I had actually read your farewell article in the Daily Targum, and you described him as your mentor. So what does he really mean to you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's my guy right there. Yeah, so Mike and I worked together at the Targum. That was the name of the student paper at Rutgers. My favorite Mike story was when he landed an interview with David Stern, the late David Stern, the NBA commissioner.
Oh, really?
By emailing him and saying, "Hey, you went to Rutgers, I go to Rutgers, want to talk?" And Stern was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So I remember he went up to New York. Mike was a year older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So he was already there and kind of entrenched, and kind of knew his way around. And he ended up landing an interview with David Stern just by doing this.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Well, we used to call him right click synonym, because he would have all these big words in his story.
Mike? You would call
Mike? Yeah, we would Mike, and he would be like, yeah, we call him right click synonym, because he would use all these big. We would be like, why is he using? What does that word mean? Why is he using that word?
That's so funny.
Yeah, but no, he just had a huge, I guess, vocabulary.
Yeah.
And he wasn't afraid to show it off. Yeah, no, Mike's a really great journalist. And certainly doing great things at the Athletic with his coverage of the Knicks. I feel for him that he's got to cover the Knicks every day. But no, he's a great journalist. Was a great friend of mine in college. That really helped me.
Definitely. Was there like a piece of advice that maybe like he gave you that really like stuck with you all for these years?
But we actually had a really good group. I'll say this: we had a really good group in general. Not just Mike, but when I was in college, I worked with a guy named Matt Stein, who is an editor at MLB.com now, and another guy named Sam Hellman, who worked for I think it was Rivals, the college site Rivals.
Yeah.
And now he's working for same company, and now he's based out of Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
We're two guys that I came up with. We were all in the same editorial board at the college paper, and guys that you could just bounce ideas off of. And if you look at the careers they've had, just really great guys to be able to bounce those ideas off of and to learn from. Again, they were both in there before me. So they kind of showed me the way, and they're still two of my best friends today that I still talk to on a regular basis. We were actually planning that first weekend of the NCAA tournament to all get together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and go out and watch some of the games. Assuming Rider or Princeton, the teams I covered, didn't make it, we were all going to get together, and we had to cancel that because of everything that was going down. But we all get together. We try to get together, and we do this thing where we go to like WWE wrestling. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was our thing. We've been to WrestleMania twice. So like, it just goes to show that like the people you meet in college will probably be your best friends for the rest of your life.
Sure.
And so not only are they great, they were great people to learn from and, swap ideas with and mentors for me, but they were also really great friends. So I still keep in touch with today. So, all those guys have just been great. They've all gone on to outstanding careers in this. And it just goes to show what having good people around you can do.
Absolutely. Anyway, I think that's all I have for right now, but I really appreciate your time with this. It means the world to me, and I'm really looking forward to, sharing this story.
Oh, yeah, no, anytime.